Hey everyone, how's it going? My name's Adam or EposVox and welcome to Tech Tuesday. This is potentially a start of a weekly series. I know I've started various tech news-y things and news shows and gaming news shows and stuff in the past, and I've never really been able to stick to a schedule just because of how honestly inconvenient it is to make such content. However, I've been doing for over a month now a Tech Tuesday column over on tetraninja.com. I'm a staff writer there, and I did a bunch of E3 coverage over there as well, which I'll touch on in a minute. But I've been doing a weekly column for them on the Tetra Ninja website, and so I figured why not spin it into a video? I want to share it with you guys, and only so many people are going to come over from Twitter and Facebook to that article or even see the post in the first place to come over. So I thought I'd give it a shot doing it here in video, just a quick random recording session of some tech topics that we have going today. Now I've got 6 topics lined up here, including what we're going to start out with, which is cooling off from E3. I'm going to try not to repeat too much of coverage that was made during that time, as I did a lot of it, and I don't want to talk about it anymore, and you're not going to want to hear about it a whole lot. But one thing I did not touch on last week during E3 was AMD actually announced and revealed and slightly spec'd out a little bit their new 460 and 470 RX graphics cards. These are the lower end versions of the 480 that they already announced. They actually wanted to introduce those during the PC gaming show. They said they were going to talk about the Zen CPU architecture, and they never did. But they did bring up these 2 new 14 nanometer graphics cards. They are quite tiny. They were shown without heat sinks. I don't know, or like any sort of heatsink or spreader or anything. I have to assume that that's not how they're going to ship. That's not something we've seen in over a decade, really, for those level of cards, presumably. But the 470 was detailed as being ideal for 1080p gaming, and then they said the 460 would be ideal for budget builds and for esports games that are, you know, meant to run on lower end hardware already, like MOBAs, League of Legends, those kinds of things. So that's pretty interesting. We don't got prices yet. But the 480 is already dirt cheap, so I have to imagine these are going to be some pretty cheap cards, and I'm really interested to see what they do with them. Next up, during E3, which I chose to pay 0 attention to because I was already paying so much attention to E3, and because I own like 2 entire Apple products in my entire life, and neither of them are new whatsoever, is the WWDC Apple conference was the past week during E3. And they made a crazy change in that they rebranded OS X or OS X, their main computer operating system platform. They rebranded it as Mac OS, with Mac being in lowercase, which is A, confusing, B, typical Apple, and 3, the first time that that's gotten an actual like change in over 15 years. The first OS X build released to the public in 2001. So it's been 15 years, and they finally changed it from OS version 10 to Mac OS, and the new one's called Sierra. They got their code names never made sense. For the longest time, the OS X code names were actually cat names. They were like Mountain Lion and things like that, and then they jumped to El Capitan. And I don't know about my cat. You stay down. Nope, I'm not doing this. He's gonna come up here. But I don't know about my cat, but I've personally never heard of a cat named El Capitan, so that's certainly interesting. They updated the Watch OS to Watch OS 3 for some interesting updates with what they claim the apps will load instantly from now on, as there's been a lot of trouble with the apps loading in the first place, and it added an SOS button, which I feel is probably an important update to the watch. Like that would be very important to have. iOS 10 got a new lock screen. That's about it. Oh, iMessage updated with an emoji keyboard, and then a bunch of people were wanting it ported over to Android apparently, and then I forgot who, but someone big, I think someone at Google maybe? I forgot who, but some big tech person said that they'd use Bing for the next year or the next 6 months or something if Apple ported iMessage over to Android, which was kind of funny. And then Siri has integration for third-party app development now, and they added some new features to the TV OS. And again, I'm not an Apple user, not something I delved into, but it was pretty crazy that they just decided to rebrand their computer operating system, Mac OS Sierra. Okay, now we don't have numbers, we just have confusing names. Also, like opposite of Microsoft, although we will be coming back to Apple in a moment, Microsoft purchased LinkedIn, the professional network social media platform that has always confused me why anyone would actually use, because I've never been a huge fan, but Microsoft's actually bought it, which is probably the first time a big tech giant has probably owned an actual social media network. I could be wrong, but one of these like big companies like Apple or Microsoft or whatever own their own social media network that started prior to them. I'm sure plenty of them have tried to launch their own, Google Plus, but for them to purchase one that's already going. LinkedIn will continue its normal features and platform and product on its own, but it will be integrated into Microsoft Office, which is going to be very strange. And one feature that they suggested might happen is that you can get more information about someone you're about to meet with or something via Cortana from their information on LinkedIn. And Microsoft had stated that there's no current database of information about professionals, and so they're hoping to build that from LinkedIn. I find this a little creepy, and the use is a little walking that line of being uncomfortable in terms of privacy, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. Now, in theory, it's not that bad. It's like a dossier on people based on public information that's already there. I don't know. I feel like that's treading a fine line, although potentially there could be some convenient features to come out of it for integration into Microsoft Office. But again, it could also get very strange. I don't know. We'll have to see. I'm not a big LinkedIn fan, as I stated before, but I don't know. The FCC and all of us who actually appreciate the internet being free and open had been pushing for the court to rule, or for FCC to rule, rather. Someone's been I'm tired. I've been working all week and I've barely had any energy. Basically, the FCC and the courts have ruled that internet and World Wide Web access is a public utility, something that everyone deserves and should have access to completely unrestricted and unfiltered or, throttled by companies, agencies. ISPs, which of course Verizon and AT&T absolutely oppose because LOL monopolies. I keep seeing AT&T's name on the front of this. I'm surprised it's not Comcast, Time Warner, or whatever the hell they're coming with their love child. But the fight not necessarily over yet. Yes, they ruled it as a public utility and the court backed the change, and this applies to both. They weren't entirely clear. They said that it applies to both wireless internet access, wireless networking, as well as landline cable internet access. So I don't know if the wireless part refers to specifically mobile data or if it just means like providing through public Wi-Fi or something. It's probably mobile and landline, which is really interesting because there's huge data caps and data limits on mobile networking for a good reason when it comes to how much you can broadcast over cell phone towers and things like that. Like, there are specific reasons for that and regulation on that for reasons. So we'll see what comes of it, but they're going to continue to try to appeal it basically as much as they possibly can. And they even had the option to take it to the Supreme Court, although that would become the final decision if they chose to do so. So it may not be in their best interest. The cat is trying to interrupt the show as always. I can't record anything anymore without this big fuzzball. Beijing courts have actually ruled in favor of a Chinese company. I'm going to butcher this name. Shenzhen Baili. Claiming that Apple has actually violated their phone patents with the iPhone 6s and 6 or something like that for their 100C phone, saying that the iPhone completely ripped off their phone and their phone design, and the Beijing court actually banned iPhone sales in China. Except then Apple appealed it, giving them the option to continue selling the phones anyway as they're trying to fight it. But so far the court has actually held and they're just reviewing it. Apple gets what they want, and clearly they're just going to keep selling their phones anyway until they absolutely can't, and I can't imagine this not going in Apple's favor simply because they always get what they want. But it is interesting that Apple has pushed so hard to fight other companies claiming that they've stolen their designs when Apple potentially ripped off another company's design. We'll see how it goes. Probably nothing significant to come from it, but it would be interesting to see Apple get bit in the butt because of that. Well deserved if they did steal the design, though. I mean, that was Steve Jobs' like famous quote was, "Good designers borrow, great designers steal." Eventually someone's gonna notice and not be happy about it, so that's what happens. Lastly, Snapchat has started monetizing, and I've sure as hell noticed it as I've been unable to navigate the platform because there's ads everywhere interrupting my stories, which I do find it kind of obnoxious. And it's mainly because I got used to it as being an ad-free platform. But they have expandable ads in between your story listings or in between stories. And then they have an ad API to allow big companies to manage like big multi-ad campaigns instead of having to do manual deals between or, you know, for each ad and things like that. So to make the whole process easier to monetize the platform. Whether or not they'll ever bring monetization to the actual creators or not, completely unclear. Still brand new product. That always takes time and has to trickle down and things like that, but is interesting to consider. So these are my topics for this week. I would like to add, I meant to add this at the beginning, the topics and the topic order that I'm doing here on video may actually like have some discrepancies between here and the article itself, as I have to record these in advance. I have to make videos in advance or the video's not going to be up on time. And so I'm actually recording this over the weekend, and then the editor reviews and often we've changed topics or changed topic orders or cut topics off or whatever. In those cases, I will just be posting direct links to other stories, you know, to other sources for the stories that I'm talking about. But everything else would otherwise be in the TetraNinja.com article. So this has been Tech Tuesday for the week of June 21st, 2016. Let me know if you liked the video, if you like this kind of content, if you'd like to see more. Again, this is pretty inconvenient for me to make, but it definitely would be worth making it if it, you know, brought success both to the channel and to the article to play into each other. So we'll see. Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to comment, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Come check out my other channels. Check out the Tetra Ninja link in the description below, or just go to tetraninja.com, and I will catch you in the next one. Peace.